Hail to thee, my kindred. I hope you're all having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and night, wherever and whenever you are. My goodness, I am a little bit more joyous than usual. I guess it's because I ate like a little bit ago, and that made me happy. Simple reason, I know, but it is the truth. I've got some water next to me so that I don't get too dry-throated, dry-mouthed, dry, so that I don't get too dry while I read this. For today, we will be continuing from book 3 until whatever book we end up at by the end of these 3 hours. Happy Thanksgiving for everyone who does celebrate it, and even if you don't, I hope you have a good one. Because we all deserve to have a good one, a good day, on generally and hopefully any day, but since it is Thanksgiving, especially today. May you all be joyous and celebrating and having a pretty chill time. Don't drink too much. Drink a little, but not too much, at a certain pace. At least, if you're gonna drink a lot. Ay. I myself only had some rice with turkey and mashed potatoes, which is pretty good in my book. Pretty good. No pies of any sort. We do not really eat that in this household. Although, I certainly wouldn't mind a little bit of pumpkin pie. It would be hitting the spot. But beggars can't be choosers, and maybe I'll still get one before the end of the month. Who knows? Anyhow, I suppose we shall get going with it, yes? Last time, I still remember the pain that was reading through so many names and so many locations that I am hoping we don't have to do that again this time. Please, I beg of this frickin' story not to do this again. It was somewhat painful attempting to pronunciate names and places I had no idea how to pronunciate. Dueling for a Haunted Lady. Already off to a great start. The Trojan squadrons, flanked by officers, drew up and sortied in a dim of arms and shouted voices, wave on wave, like cranes in a clamorous lines before the face of heaven, beating away from winter's gloom and storms, over the streams of ocean, hoarsely calling to bring a slaughter on the pygmy warriors, cranes at dawn descending, beaked and cruel attacked. The Achaeans, for their part, came on in silence, raging under their breath, shoulder to shoulder, sworn. Imagine mist the south wind rolls on hills, a blowing bane for shepherds, but for thieves better than nightfall, mist where a man can see a stone's throw and no more. So dense the dust that clouded up from these advancing hosts as they devoured the plain, and nearer the front ranks came, till one from the Trojan front detached himself to be the first in battle, vivid and beautiful, Alexandros, wearing a cowl of leopard skin, a bow hung on his back, a long sword at his hip. With 2 spears capped in pointed bronze, he shook them and called out to the best men of the Argives to meet him in the melee face to face. I like how they used the word a long sword. I suppose for the time, those short swords would have been long swords, but they did not have particularly long swords in the days of bronze. He quite literally could not create a long sword, but flowery descriptions. I do not fault the translator Fitzgerald for calling it a long sword. It is what it is. Just know, long swords of the day did not really exist. They were more so like machetes, short in their length. Like a really big knife, honestly. Pretty big knife. Still cool. I do like those very few Bronze Age swords that have been found in, you know, ar- archaeology, that is the term. I do not know why my brain faulted me there. Menelaus, watching that figure come with the long strides in the clear before the others, knew him and thrilled with joy. A hungry lion that falls on heavy game, an antlered deer or a wild boar, will rend and feast upon it, even though hunters and their hounds assail him. So Menelaus thrilled when he beheld Alexandros before his eyes. He thought, "I'll cut him to bits, adulterous dog," and and vaulted down from his car at once with all his gear. But when Alexandros caught sight of him emerging from the ranks, his heart misgave, and he recoiled on his companions, not to incur the deadly clash. A man who stumbles upon a viper in a mountain glen will jump aside, a trembling take his knees, paler his cheeks. He backs and backs away. In the same way, Alexandros paced backwards into the Trojan lines and edged among them, dreading the son of Atreus. Hector watched and said in scorn, "You bad luck charm! Paris, the great lover, a gallant sight! You should have had no seed and died unmarried. Would to God you had! Better than living this way in dishonor, in everyone's contempt. Now they can laugh, Achaeans who thought you were a first-rate man, a champion going by looks and no backbone. No staying power is in you. Were you this way when you made up your crews and crossed the seas in the longships for trafficking abroad? And when you then brought home a lovely woman from a far land, a girl already married whose brother-in-law and husband were great soldiers, ruin for your father and all his realm, joy for your enemies, and shame for you. Now you could not stand up to Menelaus? You'd find out what a fighting man he is, whose flower-like wife you hold. No charm would come of harping then, or Aphrodite's favors, and the clean-limbed body and the flowing hair, when you lay down to make your lover to dust. What slaves these Trojans are, if not long since you might have worn a shirt of cobblestones for all the wrong you've done." Damn, his own brother's roasting the hell out of him. He really, I don't blame him. Like, this entire thing was kind of caused by Paris, let's not lie. Paris did do a little whoopsie by taking another man's wife. And, yeah, that's a whole story in and of itself. If I remember correctly, actually, I don't remember correctly how the story of that happening went. Because I believe I'm mistaking Paris for someone else. I know there was a story about involving Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. And then Aphrodite, I think it's something along the lines of, who do you think the most beautiful of us is? And then the man chooses one of the three, and for that, I think it's Aphrodite. If I remember correctly, it's Aphrodite. And Aphrodite gives the man a golden apple, basically saying, hey, or maybe it's not a golden apple, but gives him something that is promised to charm whatever woman he wishes to charm. Something of that nature. I do not remember if it was Paris who was that guy, or if I'm, like I said, misremembering the mythology a bit. The stories of old. Can you blame me? There's too many to account for sometimes. The beautiful prince, Alexandros, replied to him, "Ah, Hector, this harshness is no more than just. Remember, though, your spirit like an axe edge whetted sharp that goes through timber. When a good shipwright hews out a beam, the tool triples his power. That is the way your heart is in your breast. My own gifts are from pale god Aphrodite. Do not taunt me for them. Glorious things the gods bestow are not to be despised, being as the gods will. Wishing will not bring them. Now, if what you want from me is fighting, make all the other Trojans and Achaeans down their arms. Let Menelaus alone and me between the lines in single combat. Duel for Helen and the Spartan gold. Whoever gets the upper hand in this shall take the treasure and the woman home. Let the rest part as friends. Let all take oaths, that you may live in peace in Troy's rich lands while they make sail for Argos and its pastures, in the land of lovely womankind, Achaia. Listening, Hector felt his heart grow lighter, and down the Trojan center, with his lance held up mid-haft. Mid-haft, I don't think I've ever heard that term, haft. Mid-haft he drove, calling, "Battalions, halt!" till he brought them to a stand at ease. Really? Alexandros saying, "Hey, don't blame me for being gifted," got Hector to be like, "All right." Just chilled out a little bit. You know, I suppose as long as the prince decides to actually throw hands with Menelaus, it's all good, you know. Honor is there and not restored, but it's there, you know. It's better than nothing. The long-haired Achaean soldiers bent their bows. Hold on. Yeah. The long-haired Achaean soldiers bent their bows, aiming with arrows and with stones. But high and clear they heard a shout from Agamemnon. "Hold on, Argives! Men, don't shoot! This means he has in mind some proclamation. Hector, there, in the flashing helmet." Archers lowered their bows, and all fell silent now as Hector to both armies made appeal. "Hear me, Trojans, Achaeans under arms. Hear the proposal of Alexandros, because of whom this quarrel began. He asks all other Trojans and Achaean soldiers to put their arms aside upon the ground, while he and Menelaus fight it out between the lines alone for Helen and her Spartan gold. The winner to take the treasure home, and take the woman to rest, with solemn oaths to part as friends." The armies were now hushed. Across the field, Menelaus, clarion in war, addressed them. "Hear me also, is the iron enters deepest in me. Yet I agree, the Trojans and Argives should withdraw in peace. You've borne so many hardships taking part with me in the quarrel," Alexandros began. "So death to him for whom the hour of death has come. The rest of you part peacefully soon. Bring down a black ewee, that is a sheep, I believe, a black ewee and a snow-white ram for sacrifice to Earth and Helios. We here shall dedicate a third to Zeus, and lead down Priam in his power, that he himself may swear to peace. Reckless, untrustworthy sons he has, but no man's overweening should break the peace of Zeus. The younger men are changeable. He in his age among them, looking before and after, can see clearly what shall be in the interest of all." Damn, they're kind of spitting bars here, though. Saying like, hey, you know, it doesn't matter how coddled this guy is, he'll hold an oath if Zeus is involved. Or he should hold his oath if Zeus is involved, and hopefully change. Because the younger men are changeable, as he says. I like that. Now all hearts lifted at his words, for both sides hoped for an end of miserable war, and backing chariots into line, the men stepped out, disarmed themselves, and left their weapons heaped at close intervals on open ground. Hector, meanwhile, had sent 2 runners back to bring the sheep and summon the lord Priam. Agamemnon at the same time dispatched Talthybius to the ships, bidding him bring a sheep as well, and he obeyed. Now Iris made her way to inform the lady Helen, appearing as her sister-in-law, Laodike? Lao. I'm just gonna say Lao, respectfully. Lao, loveliest of Priam's daughter and the wife of Helicaon, a son of Lord Antenor. She found her weaving in the women's hall a double violet stuff, whereon inwoven were many passages of arms by Trojan horsemen and Achaeans mailed in bronze, trials braved for her sake at the war god's hand. Approaching her, swift, Iris said, "Come, dearest, come outside and see the marvelous change in Trojans and Achaeans. Up to now, Up to now, they have made war till we were dead with weeping war unending in the cruel plain. No more now. They are resting on their shields, each with his tall spear thrust in the earth beside him. It seems Alexandrus and the great soldier Menelaus will meet in single combat with battle spears. For you, the man who wins shall win you as his consort. And the goddess, even as she spoke, infused in Helen's heart a smoky sweetness and desire for him who first had taken her as bride, and for her parents and her ancient town. Quickly she cloaked herself in silvery veils and let a teardrop fall and left her chamber, not unaccompanied, but as became a princess, with 2 maids in waiting, one Aethre, child of Pythias, and the other wide-eyed Clymene. Soon these 3 women neared the Scaean gates. Scaean or Scaean? There Priam and his counselors were sitting, Thametes, Panthos, Lampus, Cleithios, and soldier Hecataion. Hecataion, I think it is, or might be that, and those 2 clear-headed men, Antenor and Aucaligon, peer of the realm, in age strengthless at war, but strong still in their talking, perching now above the Scaean gates on the escarpment. And they sounded like cicadas in dry summer that cling on leafy trees and send out voices rhythmic and long. So droned and murmured these old leaders of the Trojans on the tower, and watching Helen as she climbed the stair in undertones, they said to one another, "We cannot rage at her. It is no wonder that Trojans and Achaeans under arms should for so long have borne the pains of war for one like this." Not the old men talking about how pretty she is. No. Unearthliness. A goddess the woman is to look at. Ah, but still, even so, being all that she is, let her go in the ships and take her scourge from us and from our children. These were the old men's voices, but to Helen Priam called out, "Come here, dear child, sit there beside me. You shall see your one-time lord and your dear kinsman. You are not to blame. I hold the gods to blame for bringing on this war against the Achaeans, to our sorrow. Come, tell me who the big man is out there. Who is that powerful figure? Other men are taller, but I never saw a soldier clean-cut as he, as royal in his bearing. He seems a kingly man." At least Priam is chill. Priam is like, "Girl, it's not your fault. It's my dumbass son." Okay, he technically blames the gods, but I'm pretty sure in his mind he's like, "My dumbass son did this. Brought you here, caused this whole war." Poor Priam. He's gotta be stressed. "And the great beauty," Helen replied, "revere you as I do. I dread you too, dear father. Painful death would have been sweeter for me. On that day I joined your son and left my bridal chamber, my brothers, my grown child, my childhood friends. But no death came, though I have pined and wept. Your question now, yes, I can answer it. That man is Agamemnon, son of Atreus, lord of the plains of Argos, ever both a good king and a formidable soldier, brother to the husband of a wanton. Or was that life a dream?" The old man gazed and mused and softly cried, "O fortunate son of Atreus, child of destiny, O happy soul! How many sons of Achaea serve under you? In the old days, once I went into the vineyard country of Phrygia, and saw the Phrygian host on nimble ponies, Otreus and Mygdon's people. In those days they were encamped on Sangarius rivers, and they allotted me as their ally my place among them when the Amazons came down, those women who were fighting men. But that host never equaled this, the army of the keen-eyed men of Achaea. Still gazing out, he caught sight of Odysseus, and then the old man said, 'Tell me, dear child, who is that officer? The son of Atreus stands a head taller, but this man appears to have a deepest chest and broader shoulders. His gear lies on the ground, but still he goes like a bellwether up and down the ranks. A ram, I'd call him, burly, thick with fleece, keeping a flock of silvery sheep in line. And Helen, shaped by heaven, answered him. This is Laertes' son, the great tactician Odysseus. He was bred on Ithaca, a bare and stony island, but he knows all manner of stratagems and moves in war. Antenor, the alert man, interposed. My lady, there indeed you hit the mark. Once long ago he came here, great Odysseus, with Menelaus, came to treat of you. They were my guest, and I made friends of both, and learned their stratagems and characters. Among us Trojans in our gatherings, Menelaus, broad in the shoulders likewise, overtopped him. Seated, Odysseus looked the kinglier man. When each of them stood up to make his plea, his argument before us all, then Menelaus said a few words in a rather headlong way, but clearly, not long-winded and not vague, and indeed he was the younger of the two. Then in his turn the great tactician rose and stood, and looked at the ground, moving the staff before him, not all forward or backward, obstinate and slowly of what he seemed, gripping the staff. You'd say some surly fellow with an empty head, but when he launched a strong voice from his chest, words came driving on the air as thick and fast as winter snowflakes. Then Odysseus could have no mortal rival as an orator. They are gassing this guy up, huh? And the look of him no longer made us wonder. Observing a third figure, that of Aias, the old man asked, Who is that other one, so massive and so strongly built? He towers head and shoulders above the Argive soldiers, troops. I don't know why I said soldiers when I said troops, but same thing, right? Tall in her long gown, in her silver cloak, Helen replied, That is the giant soldier, Aias, a rugged sea wall for Achaeans. Opposite him, among the Cretans, there is tall Idomeneus, with captains around him. Menelaus, whom the war god loves, received him often in our house in Sparta when he crossed over out of Crete. I see all the Achaeans now whom I might recognize and name for you. Except for two I cannot see, the captains Castor, breaker of horses, and the boxer, Polydeuces. Both my brothers, mother bore them both. Were these not in the fleet from Lacedaemon? Or did they cross in the long ships but refrain from entering combat here because they dread veiled talk of me and curses on my name, on my head? So Helen wondered, but her brothers lay motionless in the arms of life-bestowing earth, long dead in Lake Daemon of their fathers. Yikes. Okay, that's kind of sad. She's wondering, like, where, I don't see my brothers who I expect to be a part of this, and it's like, honey, they're dead. They've been dead. Meanwhile, by lane and wall, the criers came with sacrificial sheep and bearing wine that warms the heart, gift of the vineyard ground, a goatskin ponderous with wine. What does that even mean? And one, oh no, okay, right, because they would have carried it in different containers, right? I kind of forgot about that. In goatskin, I suppose, like a little goatskin bottle. Not really a bottle, but like a. What's the modern word for one? Like the thing you carry water in that soldiers often carry. I kind of forgot the name of it for whatever reason. It evades my mind. And one Idaeus, carrying golden goblets and a wine bowl shining, reached the side of the aged king and called upon him, son of Laomedon, Ares, the master soldier of both armies, Trojan breakers of horses, Achaeans mailed in bronze, request that you be present in the plain for peace offerings and oaths. Alexandros and Menelaus, whom the war god loves, will fight with battle spears over the lady. She and the treasure go to him who wins. As for the rest, by solemn pact, thereafter in this rich land of Troy we dwell in peace, while they return to the grazing land of Argos and to Achaea, country of fair women. At this announcement by the crier, a tremor shook the old king, head to foot. He said, "Harness the team." I don't know what he means by this, but I'm sure we'll find out. And hastily they did so. Stepping into his car, Lord Priam took the reins and leaned back, tugging at the horses until Antenor mounted at his side. Then to the Scaean gates, and out they drove, keeping the swift team headed for the plain. They reined in at the battle line, set foot upon the open ground and once cattle pasture, and walked between the Trojans and Achaeans. Okay, so basically we're pulling up because it was requested. So they got on their little cart with their horses and they went out to meet, at the front lines. Promptly, Lord Agamemnon and Odysseus, master of stratagems, arose. The criers, noble retainers, brought the votive sheep, prepared the bowls of wine, and rinsed the hands of their commanders. Then the son of Atreus drew from his hip the sheath knife hanging there beside his long sword scabbard. From the brows of Ram and Ewe, he cut the fleece, and the criers handed it out to the officers of both armies. With arms held wide to heaven, Agamemnon prayed in the name of all. O Father Zeus, power over Ida, greatest among glorious, O Helios, by whom all things are seen, all overheard, O rivers, O dark earth, O powers underground, Casteres. Oh, phone call. One moment. Okay, I don't even know who that phone number is. It's a random phone number just decides to call me. Why? Send me a text first if I don't know who you are. That would be pleasant. Where was I? O dark earth, O powers underground, caster seers of dead men for breaking solemn oaths. Castiseers? Castiseers. I don't know what that word means. Be witness all. Preserve this pact we swear to. If in fact Alexandros should kill Lord Menelaus, let him keep Helen and keep all the gold, while we sail home in the long ships. But if Alexandros be killed, the Trojans are to surrender Helen and the treasure. Moreover, they must pay tribute due to Argives now renewed to their descendants. In the event that Priam and his sons refuse this, though Alexandros be killed, then I shall stay and fight for my indemnity until I come upon an end to war. He drew the pitiless bronze knife edge hard across the gullet of the sheep, and laid them quivering on the ground, their lives ebbing, lost to the wetted bronze. Now dipping up wine from the wine bowls into golden cups, the captains tipped their offerings and prayed. To the gods who never die, here is the way the Trojans and Achaeans prayed. O Zeus almighty and glorious, and most glorious, gods undying, let any parties to this oath who first calamitously break it have their brains decanted like these wine drops on the ground. They and their children, let their wives be slaves. God damn. The oaths ran so, but Zeus would not abide by what they swore. That's kind of funny that the story tells us this. It's like, the oaths, were said, but Zeus did not give a shit. Now Dardan Priam spoke. One word from me, O Trojans and Achaeans. For my part, back I go to the windy town of Iliad. I cannot bear to watch my son in combat against Menelaus, a man the war god stands behind. No doubt Zeus knows the end, and all the immortals know which of the two must die his fated death. He placed the carcass of the ram and Ewe before him in the chariot, and stepped aboard in majesty, holding the horses while Lord Antenor climbed the royal car. Then, circling back, they drove toward Ilion. Prince Hector and Odysseus together paced off the dueling ground. Next, they took up 2 tokens in the bronze helm, shaking it to see which man would cast his weapon first. Meanwhile, the soldiers held their hands to heaven, Trojans and Achaeans in prayer. Everybody's praying for this fight. Father Zeus, almighty over Ada, may he who brought this trouble on both sides perish. Let him waste away into the undergloom. As for ourselves, let us be loyal friends in peace. They prayed as powerful Hector in his flashing helmet, keeping his eyes averted, churned the tokens. That of Paris quickly tumbled out, and now, holding their lines, the troops sank down, each one beside his horse and his gear. The time had come. Prince Alexandros, consort of Helen, buckled in on his armor, first the greaves, well molded to his shins, with silver ankle circlets. Then around his chest the cuirass of his brother Lycaon, a good fit for him. He slung a sword of bronze with silver-studded hilt by a baldric on his shoulder. Over this, a shield strap and a many-layered shield. Then drew a helmet with a horse-tail crest upon his head, upon his gallant brow, the tall plume like a wave crest, grimly tossing. He picked out, finally, a solid spear with his own hand grip. Meanwhile, the great soldier Menelaus put on his own equipment, armed now, each in his place apart. Both men walked forward in the space between the armies, glaring at one another. Fierce excitement ran through all who gazed, horse-breaking Trojans, Achaeans in leg armor, as the champions came to a stand inside the dueling ground and hefted spears in range. Without delay, Alexandros opened the fight. He hurled his long shadowing spear and hit Atreides fair on the round shield. Nothing brazen broke, no, but the point of the bronze impact bent in the hard armor. Second to make his cast, and rousing to it with his bronzen shod spear, the son of Atreus, Menelaus, prayed to Father Zeus. O Zeus aloft, grant I shall make the man who wronged me first pay for it now. Let him be humbled, brought down at my hands, and heart in those born after us will shrink from treachery to a host who offers love. Hefting and aiming as he spoke, he hurled his long shadowing spear and hit his adversary fair on the round shield, formidably sped. The spear went through the polished hide and through the densely plated cuirass. There it ripped the shirt forward along his flank and stuck, but Paris, twisting, had eluded death. Drawing his long sword then, Lord Menelaus reared and struck him on the helmet ridge, but saw his blade, broken in jagged splinters, drop from his hand. Lifting his eyes to heaven, he groaned, O Father Zeus, of all the gods, none is more cruel to hopeful men than you are. I thought to make Alexandros pay for his crime, and what luck have I had? My spear slipped from my grip in vain. I missed him, and now my sword is shattered in my hand. But now in one bound, pouncing, he laid hold of the horse-tail crest and spun his enemy, then yanked him backward towards the Achaean lines, choked by the shin strap, cutting into his throat. He held a well-stitched band secured beneath his helmet. To his own glory, Menelaus now would in fact have pulled him all the way, had Aphrodite with her clear eye not perceived him, and she snapped that band of ox hide cut from a clubbed ox. Now, at this the helmet came away easily in the fighter's hand. He whirled it around with his head, and let it fly amid the Achaeans, where his own men caught it. And once again, raging to kill his man, he lunged, aiming a lance. But this time Aphrodite spirited Alexandros away so as easily as only a god could. She hid him in mist and put him down in his own fragrant chamber, while she herself went off to summon Helen. She came upon her on the battlement amid the throng of Trojan ladies. Here the goddess plucked at a fold of her sweet-scented gown and spoke to her. She seemed a spinning woman who once had spun soft wool for her at home in Lacedaemon. Lacedaemon? I think it's Damon. Lacedaemon, and the princess loved her. In this guise, ravishing Aphrodite said, "Come home with me. Alexandros invites you. On the ivory inlaid between bed in your chamber." I need to reread because I just messed that up. "Come home with me. Alexandros invites you. On the ivory inlaid bed in your bedchamber, he lies at ease and freshly dressed, so handsome, never could you imagine the man came just now from combat. One would say he goes to grace a dance, or has until this minute danced and is resting now." So what? Aphrodite literally just poofed him out of battle. That seems, I would be kind of pressed. I'm gonna be honest. If I'm fighting a guy and then he just disappears in front of my eyes, yeah, I'd be kind of mad. Especially if, like, my spear doesn't land, my sword breaks, then I'm just basically out here with my shield in my hands trying to get this man, and then just as I'm about to get him, he just gets spirited away. Just taken from my rightful victory. Ah. My throat is now quenched. So she described him, and Helen's heart beat faster in her breast. Her sense began being quickened so, through all disguise, she recognized the goddess's flawless throat, her fine breast that moved the sights of longing, her brilliant eyes, and she called her by her name in wonder, saying, "Oh, immortal madness, why do you have this craving to seduce me? Am I to be transported even farther eastward into some Phrygian walled town, or into Mayani? I'm gonna say, I almost said mayonnaise. What? Mayani? If you have there another mortal friend, is it because Menelaus has beaten Alexandrus, and, hateful though I am, would take me home? Is that why you are here in all your cunning? Go take your place beside Alexandros, leave the bright paths the gods take over heaven, and walk no more about Olympus. Be unhappy for him, shield him till at last he marries you, or, as he will, enslaves you. I shall not join him there. It would be base if I should make his bed luxurious now. There will be such whispering among the Trojan women later, as though I had not pain enough to bear." To this the goddess haughtily replied, "Better not be so difficult. You'll vex me enough to let you go. Then I shall hate you as I have cherished you till now. Moreover, I can make hatred for you grow amid both Trojans and Danaans." Danaans, I forgot that that sometimes they refer to the freaking Argives people or the Achaeans as the Danaans. "And if I do, you'll come to a bad end." Now Helen, shaped by heaven, was afraid. Of course she would. You just like talked back to a goddess. What do you think was gonna happen? Enfolded in her shining robe of silver, she turned to go, without a word, unseen by all the women, for the goddess led her. Entering Alexandrus's magnificent house, the maids went quickly to their work, and Helen mounted to her high chamber. Aphrodite, who smiled on smiling love, brought her a chair and set it down facing Alexandros. Helen, daughter of Zeus, beyond the storm cloud, took her seat with downcast eyes and greeted him. "Home from the war? You should have perished there, brought down by that strong soldier, once my husband. You used to say you were the better man, more skillful with your hands, your spear. So why not challenge him to a fight again? I wouldn't if I were you. No, don't go back to war against the thorny-headed man of war like a rash fool. You'd crumple under his lance." Paris replied, "Love, don't be bitter with me. These are unkind reflections. It is true, on the occasion he and Athena won. Next time I may. We, too, have gods with us. Let us drop war now, you and I, and give ourselves to pleasure in our bed. My soul was never so possessed by longing, not even when I took you first aboard of Lacedaemon, that sweet land, and sailed in the long ships. Not the not at a cranny island where I first went to bed with you and loved you. Greater desires now lift me like a tide." Man got whisked away from a fight, and it's like, damn, I need to smash. He went to bed, and she went with him, and in the inlaid ivory bed these two made love, while Menelaus roamed the ranks like a wild beast, hunting the godlike man Alexandros. But not a Trojan there. Not one of all the allies could produce him for the war god's friend, Menelaus, and none for love would ever hide him if he saw him, the man being abhorred like death itself. Now the Lord Marshal Agamemnon spoke amid the armies. Give me your attention, Trojans, Dardans, and allies. Beyond question, Menelaus is victorious. Therefore, Helen of Argos and the treasure are now to be surrendered. You must pay tribute as well, the compensation due payable too in future generations. And to this judgment of the son of Atreus, the rest of the Achaeans gave assent. Book 4. What is this chapter called? A bow shot bringing war. Oh no. Of course something goes wrong. When doesn't something go wrong? The gods were seated near to Zeus in council upon a golden floor. Gracious Hebe served them nectar, as with cups of gold they toasted one another, looking down toward the stronghold of Ilion. Abruptly, and with oblique intent to ruffle Hera, Zeus in cutting tones remarked, "Two goddesses have Menelaus for their protege, Hera the patroness of Argon and Athena, known as guardian in Boeotia. Still, they keep their distance here. Their pleasure comes from looking on. But Aphrodite, who loves all smiling lips and eyes, cleaves to her man to ward off peril from him. He thought he faced death, but she saved him. Clearly Menelaus, whom Ares backs, has won the single combat. Let us then consider how this affair may end. Shall we again bring on the misery and din of war, or make a pact of amity between them? If only all of you were pleased to see it, life might go on in Priam's town, while Menelaus took Helen of Argos home." At this proposal, Hera and Athena murmured rebelliously. These two together sat making mischief for the men of Troy, and though she held her tongue, a sullen anger filled Athena against her father. Hera could not contain her own vexation, saying, "Your Majesty, what is this? What is the drift of this? How could you bring to nothing all my toil, the sweat I sweated, and my winded horses, when I called out that army to bear hard on Priam and his sons? Act, if you must, but not all here approve." Coldly annoyed, the Lord Zeus, who drives the clouds of heaven, answered, "Strange one, how can Priam and Priam's sons have hurt you so that you are possessed to see the trim stronghold of Ilion plundered? Could you breach the gates and the great walls yourself and feed on Priam with all his sons and all the other Trojans dished up raw? You might appease this rage. Do as you wish to do then. This dispute should not leave rancor afterward between us. Darn. I'll be right back. Phone call again. Return I have, and Ganarg, why did you not show up on my other... Okay, I see you now. Don't know when you showed up, but you didn't show up on my phone's chat. I don't know why, but hail to thee, how do you do? How do you do? I hope your day's going alright, if you're still there. Happy Thanksgiving. All that good stuff. Let me do a little stretch here. There we go. And Ash, hail to thee. How do you do? Trying to spook me again. That's just your thing now, isn't it? How are you doing, Ash? Has your brother finished putting your CPU in your computer? Like always, like always? Makes sense, I suppose. Water. Water, water, water. What part was I on? Yes, all is good. That's good to hear. Hopefully you can now play your games and you won't need to stress. Let's see. Could you breach the gates and the great walls yourself and feed on Priam with all his sons and all the other Trojans, dished up raw, you might appease this rage. Do as you wish to do, then. This dispute should not leave rancor afterward between us. I must, however, tell you one thing more. Remember it. Whenever my turn comes to lust for demolition of some city whose people may be favorites of yours, do not hamper my fury. Free my hands as here I now free yours, my will prevailing on my unwilling heart. Of all the cities men of earth inhabit under the sun, under the starry heavens, Iliad stood first in my esteem, first in my heart, as Priam did, and the good Lance and his people. My altar never lacked a feast at Troy, nor spilt wine, nor the smoke of sacrifice. I cannot read. Perquisites of the gods. And the wide-eyed Hera answered, Dearest to me are these three cities, Mycenae of the broad lanes, Argos, Sparta. Let them be pulled down if you ever find them hateful to you. I will not interfere. I will not grudge you these. And if I should, why, balking and withholding my consent would gain me nothing, since the power you hold so far surpasses mine. My labor, though, should not be thwarted. I am immortal, too. Your stock and my stock are the same. Our father Cronos of crooked wit engendered me to hold exalted rank by birth and by my standing as your queen, since you are lord of all immortal gods. Come, we'll give way to another in this affair. I yield to you and you to me. The gods will follow. Only be quick and send Athena down into the hurly-burly of the armies. Why was that the choice of words? That is kind of an unfortunate... I don't know, that's just silly. Hurly-burly of the armies. To make the Trojans, not the Achaeans, first to sunder the truce they swore to. In this way, Hera prompted him, and the father of the gods and men complied by saying briskly to Athena, In all haste, down you go amid the armies to see if Trojans, not Achaeans, first will sunder to the truce they swore to. Given orders to do her own will, grey-eyed Athena left Olympus, dropping downward from the crest, as though the son of crooked-minded Cronos had flung a shooting star, to be a sign for the men on the deep sea, or some broad army, a streak of radiance and a sparkling track. Down she flashed till a light amid the troops, and wonder held them all at gaze, horse-breaking Trojans and Achaeans in leg armor. You might have heard one, glancing at the next man, mutter, What is to come? Bad days again in the bloody lines? Or can both sides be friends? Which will it be from Zeus, who holds the keys and rationing of war? These poor souls are really hoping they don't gotta keep fighting. And unfortunately for them, they will continue to fight. That was the question for Trojan and Achaean fighting men. Athena, meanwhile, in a soldier's guise, that of Laodocus and Tenor's son, a burly spearman, passed among the Trojans looking for Pandarus, if she could find him, Lycaon's noble sons. Find him she did, waiting with troops now covered by their shields, who once had followed him from the cascades of Aesopus. Near him she took her stand and let her sharp words fly. Son of Lycaon, I have in mind an exploit that may tempt you, tempt a fighting heart. Have you the gall to send an arrow like a fork of lightning home against Menelaus? Every Trojan heart would rise, and every man would praise you, especially Alexandros the prince. You would be sure to come by glittering gifts if he could see the warrior Menelaus, the son of Atreus, brought down by your bow, then bedded on a dolorous pyre. Come now, brace yourself for a shot at Menelaus. Engage to pay Apollo, the bright archer, a perfect hecatomb of firstling lambs when you go home to your old town, Zelia. More like, not Zelea. You're back, no internet? What happened to your internet? Is this getting wonky now? Come now. Brace yourself a shot. Okay, I already read that, right? I was about to start rereading stuff. Reading is hard. That was Athena's way, bemusing all his wits with witless glory. Man really got tricked. No, your brother's resetting it? I see. Makes sense. All it took this man was a little glazing from a goddess in disguise as this guy's fellow soldier for him to be like, you know what? Yeah, I should break the truce. I should take a shot. He uncased his bow of polished horn of an ibex that he had killed one day, with a chest shot upon a high crag. Waiting under cover, he shot it through the ribs and knocked it over, horns together, a good 4 feet in length. He cut and fitted these, mortised them tight, polished the bow, and capped the tips with gold. This weapon now against the ground, Pandaros bent hard and strung. Men of his company at the same time held up their shields to hide him, not to bring any greaves to their feet before he shot at Menelaus. He bared his quiver top and drew a feathered arrow, never frayed, but keen with waves of pain to darken vision. Smoothly on the string he fitted the sharp bow. Then he prayed to the bright archer, Lycaon Apollo, promising firstborn lambs in hecatomb in his return to his old town, Zelea. Pinching the grooved butt and the string, he pulled evenly till the bent string reached his nipple. The arrowhead of iron touched the bow, and when the great bow under tension made the semicircular arch, it sprang. The whipping string sang, and the arrow whizzed away, needle sharp, vicious, flashing through the crowd. Ooh. Let's see if it hits. But Menelaus, you were not neglected this time by the gods in bliss. Athena, hope of soldiers, helped you first of all, deflecting by an inch the missile's flight so that it grazed your skin, the way a mother would keep a fly from settling on a child when he is happily asleep. Athena guided the arrow down to where the golden belt buckles and the breastplate overlapped, and striking there, the bitter arrowhead punctured the well-sewn belt and cut its way into the figured cuirass, where it stuck, although the point passed onward through the loinguard next his belly, plated against spearheads, shielding him most now, yet the point entered and gouged the warrior's mortal skin. So it hit him, but not too bad, not anywhere important, or, well, I suppose during these times, getting hit anywhere was pretty bad. Now that I think about it, now that I remember. Heavens, even with the goddess deflecting an arrow, you still got hit. Then dark blood rippled in a clouding stain down from the wound, as when Maeonian or a Carian woman dyes clear ivory to be the cheekpiece of a chariot team. Though horseman after horseman longs to carry it, the artifact lies in a storeroom, kept for a great lord, a splendor doubly prized, his team's adornment and his driver's glory. So, Menelaus, where your ivory thighs dyed and suffused with running blood, your well-made shins and ankles too. Now Agamemnon, marshal of the army, looked and shuddered to see the dark blood flowing from the wound. And Menelaus himself went cold. But when he saw the lashing of the iron flange outside the wound, the barbs outside, then life and warmth came back to his heart. Okay, so I went through him, essentially. kinda like in and out, so that's good, because if it was stuck inside of him, that's where you used to have the actual problems. that's where applying this time's quote-unquote surgery would be quite deadly, assuming you could even try that out. Assuming a man would want that done to him, it might be pretty darn bad to have an arrow stuck in you. Meanwhile, the troops heard Agamemnon groan, holding his brother's hand, and heard him say, so that they groaned as well. The truce I made was death for you, dear brother. When I sent you forward alone to fight the Achaeans, I only gave a free shot to the Trojans. They've ground the truce under their heel, but not for nothing have we sworn an oath and spilt lamb's blood, red wine, and joined our hands in theirs, putting our trust in ritual. No, if the Olympian upon the instant has not exacted punishment, he will in his good time, and all the more they'll pay for their misdeeds in wives and children. For this I know well in my heart and soul. The day must come when holy Iliad is given to fire and sword, and Priam perishes, good lance though he was, with all his people. For Zeus, the son of Cronos, benched in the azure up there where he dwells, will heave his shield of storm against them all in rage of their bad faith. Bro said they better get their shit. Menelaus is not a happy lad, and he really thinks Zeus is gonna do something about it. Little do they know, Zeus did not care about their oaths. Not today. Zeus really said, damn, I can't choose sides. Well, it's less that he can't choose sides, but more so that his wife is really has a hard-on for just giving the Trojans a good smack across the face. Even if he doesn't want it to happen. At least, in return, like they have their argument early on, he at least, should the time come, get to do the same thing to one of her cities. So I guess it works out in their marriage, So it must be. But this for me is anguish, Menelaus. If you had measured out your mortal time and are to die, backwards in depths of shame might go to the drought of Argos. The Achaeans will turn their minds again to their far lands, and we, I have no doubt, must leave behind the aggrieved woman Helen for the Trojans, for Priam's glory, while your bones decay in Trojan plowland, rotting where they lie, your mission unachieved. In my mind's eye, I see some arrogant Trojan on the grave of Menelaus, the great and famous man, leaping to say, let Agamemnon's anger in every case come out like this. Remember, he brought an army of Achaeans here for nothing, and sailed back in the long ships again to his own land, but he had to leave Menelaus behind. Someone will say it, and let the vast earth yawn for me that day. But red-haired Menelaus said, be calm, courage, do not alarm the troops. The point has hit no vital spot here where it lodged. The faceted belt stopped it, and the groin guard, stiff with plate, the smith hath hammered out. Then Agamemnon said, God send you right, dear Menelaus, but the wound, we'll have a surgeon clean the wound and dress it with medicines to relieve the pain. He turned and spoke out to Talthybius, the crier. Go quick as you can and call Machaon, son of Asclepius, the great healer. Call him here to examine Menelaus. A master bowman, Trojan or Lycian, has wounded him. A feat for the enemy, worry and pain for us. Talthybius obeyed, making his way amid the army among the mailed Achaeans everywhere looking for the soldiery Machaon. He found his standing ready, troops with shields in rank and on rank around him, companies of his that came from the grazing lands of Trike. Approaching him, the crier said, "This way, son of Asclepios. You are called by Agamemnon to examine Menelaus, the co-commander. A master bowman, Trojan or Lycian, has wounded him. A feat for the enemy, worry and pain for us." I like how they just repeat the same message, which I guess is technically the job of a crier. It's to quite literally just say what the guy who told you a thing has said to other people. That's just the job. You're like a little parrot bird. The message stirred him, and back the two men hastened through the army to where the red-haired captain had been hit. Gathered around him in a circle stood the Achaean peers, but through their midst Machaon quickly gained his side and pulled the arrow free from the belt and clasp. As it came out, the barbs tore off. The surgeon then unbuckled, faceted the belt end underneath his loinguard, stiff with plate the smiths had hammered out. And when he saw the arrow wound, he sucked it clean of blood, then sprinkled it with balm, a medicine that Acheron gave his father. Now, while they tended Menelaus, lord of the war cry, Trojan ranks reformed with shields, and the Achaeans too put on their armor, mindful again of battle. In that hour, no one could have perceived in Agamemnon a moment's torpor or malingering, but fiery ardor for the battle test that brings honor to men. He left aside his team, his chariot agleam with bronze, his driver, Eurymedon, a son of Ptolemaeus. This is the one name I don't know. I know I don't know how to say a lot of names, but this one, a P and a T together, I guess it's Ptolemaeus. Pierides reined in the snoring horses, and Agamemnon gave his strict command to bring the war car up when weariness should take him in the legs after inspection of all his many marshaled troops. On foot he ranged around the men in their formations, and where he saw his charioteers and units alert for battle, he exhorted them. "Argives, keep your courage up, for Zeus will never back up liars, men who are first to sunder oaths. Their flesh the kites will feed on. Tender fare, as for their wives and children, will enslave them when we've taken the town." On seeing any slack and unready still for hated war, he lashed at them in anger. "Rabbit hearts of Argos, are you not dead with shame? How can you stand there stunned as deer that have been chased all the way up over a plain and are used up at last, and droop and halt, broken in heart and wind? That is the way you look, no fight left in you. Will you stand by till Trojans overrun our line of ships, beached here above the breakers, to find out if the hand of Zeus is over you?" So, as their lord commander, he reviewed them, passing along the crowded ranks. He came upon the Cretans, putting on their armor. Around Idomeneus, like a wild boar, with his great heart, this captain in the van harangued his companies, and in the rear, Meriones did likewise. The lord marshal Agamemnon, elated at the sight, said to Idomeneus in the warmest tones, "Idomeneus, you are a man I praise above all handlers to fast horses, whether in war or any labor, or at feast whenever in their mixing bowls or our peers prepare the wine reserved for counselors. Achaean gentlemen with flowing hair made down their portions, but your cup will be filled up and filled again, like mine, to drink as we are to move." Man really liked that he was ready. "Now the feast is war. Be as you always have been up to now." To this, Idomeneus, captain of Cretans, answered, "Son of Atreus, more than ever shall I stand by you as I swore I would, but now stir up the rest of the Achaeans to give battle as quickly as we can. The Trojans have dissolved the truce. Again, death to the Trojans. Bad times are ahead for those who override our pact and broke it." Ain't that the truth, huh? The fear The fierceness made the son of Atreus happy as he passed down the crowded ranks. He came to where the two named Aias, tall and short, were buckling on their gear. Around them armed their cloud of infantry. Like a dark cloud, a shepherd from the hilltop sees, a storm, a gloom over the ocean, traveling shoreward under the west wind, distant from his eyes, more black than pitch it seems, though far at sea, with lightning squalls driven along its front. Shivering at the sight, he drives his flock for shelter into a cavern. Grim as that were to the dense companies that armed for war with the Telamonian, Aias and the other, shields pitch black and a spiny hedge of spears. Lord Agamemnon, heartened at the sight, spoke to the captain warmly. Aias and Aias, captains of Argos in your mail of bronze, I have no orders for you. There is no need to put on a mood for war. It's clear you've passed your fighting spirit to your troops, O Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo. If only every heart were strong as these, Lord Priam's fortress would go down before us, taken in a day, and plundered at our hands. With this he left them there, and passing on to others as they formed, he found the Lord Nestor and Pilium, master orator, haranguing soldiers of Pylos, forming them for action. Around the captains Pelagian, Alistair, Chromius, Haemon, and the marshals Bias. Charioteers with teams and cars he sent forward, and kept his infantry behind to be the bristling bulk and hedge of battle, placing weak men and cowardly between brave men on either side, so willy-nilly all would be forced to fight. The chariot men were he first introduced in the way of battle, battle charioteers to keep their teams in line, not to be tangled, caught off in the melee. None of you should rely so far on horsemanship or bravery as to attack alone, much less retreat alone. That way you are most vulnerable. Let any man in line lunge with his lance when he can reach their chariots from his own. You'll fight with far more power. In the old days, cities and walls were overthrown by men who kept this plan in mind and fought with courage. Basically telling them, don't go too far, don't lag behind too far. Because otherwise you're just gonna get picked off, which, fair when it comes to charioteers. Their horses can only do so much. So the horses together, strong. Horses alone, not too strong. So ran the old man's exhortation, shrewd from a long lifetime in the ways of war. It's gladdened Agamemnon, who said to him, I wish you had the same force in your legs as in your fighting heart. I wish your strength were whole again. The wrinkling years have worn you. Better some other soldier had your age, and you were still among the young. And Nestor, Earl of Gerenia, charioteer, replied, Agamemnon, I too could wish I were the man who killed the great Erythalion, but the immortal gods have given men all things in season. Once my youth, my manhood, now my age has come. No less for that I have my place among the charioteers, to counsel and command them. Duties fit for elder men these are. The young can be good lancers, good with spears, men who were born in a later day and still can trust their powers. The son of Atreus heard him out and passed happily onward. Is this just going to be a compilation of Agamemnon just going from guy to guy and just describing how all of them are getting hyped up for the upcoming battle? I think this is what this entire chapter is just turning out to be. Next he found Menethnius, the good horse handler, son of Petius, waiting, surrounded by Athenians, good hands in battle. Near him too the great tactician Odysseus had his place, with Cephallenians in rank around him. Not at all feeble, these waited, for word of battle had not reached them, but only a first ripple in the lines of Trojans and Achaeans. There they stood, as though they waited for some other troop to move out and make contact with the Trojans. Surveying these, Lord Agamemnon, marshal of the fighting men, in urgent speech rebuked them. Son of Petius, whom the gods revered, you too, Odysseus, hero of battle guile and greed? Why both so deferential to so retiring, waiting for other troops? You two should be among the first in action, in the blaze of combat, as you both are first to hear my words of feasting every time we Achaeans prepare a feast for our staff officers. There is the fare you like, roast meat and cups of honey-hearted wine, all you desire. But now you'd gladly see 10 troops ahead of you moving out up to attack with naked bronze. Odysseus, the wily field commander, scowled at him and answered, "Son of Atreus, what is this panic you permit yourself? How can you say we'd let a fight go by ever at any time when we Achaeans against the Trojans whet the edge of war? If you will make it your concern, you'll see that the father of Telemachus in action hand to hand in the enemy's front ranks. Your bluster is all wind." I think he's calling him out a little bit there. Lord Agamemnon, sure of his angry man, replied, smiling and taking back his provocation, "Son of Laertes and the gods of old, Odysseus, master, mariner, and soldiers, I would not be unfair to you. I need not give you orders, knowing as I do that you are well disposed toward all I plan. Your thought is like my own. Come and then, in time we'll make amends for this, if anything uncalled for has been said. God send the sea winds blow it out of mind." He left them there, and going amid others found Diomedes, gallant son of Tydeus. Tydeus or Titus? It might be Titus. With combat cars and horses all around him, still at stand. Nearby stood Sthenelus, the son of Capaneus, and Agamemnon at first glimpsed in scathing speech rebuked him, baffling, "Son of Tydeus, the battle-wise breaker of horses, why are you so shy, so wary of the passages of war? Your father did not lag like this, nor care to, far from it. He would rather fight alone ahead of all his men, so they said who saw him toil in battle. I myself never met him, never laid eyes on him, but men say that he had no peer, in peace without a fight. As Polyneikes' ally, he entered old Mycenae hunting troops. At the time they were marching to besiege the ancient walls of Thebes, and they appealed for first-rate men as volunteers. Our people agreed and would have granted these, but Zeus, by inauspicious omens, changed their minds. Taking the roads and well along, the army came to Asopus in his grassy bed, a river deep in rushes. There again they ordered Tydeus forward with a message. Forward he went and found the Cadmeans thronging a great feast in the manor of Eteocles, where, though no liege nor distant friend, and though he came alone amid so many, Titus went unafraid. He challenged them to wrestling and easily beat them all, being seconded so well by Athena. Those goaders of horses, the furious Cadmeans, laid a trap for him on his retreat up country. 50 men deployed in a strong ambush by 2 leaders, Maon, immortal seeming son of Haemon, and Polyphontes. Autophonus' son. But these as well Titus brought to grief. He killed them all but one. Maon he spared and sent home, bid by portents from the gods. This then was Titus the Aetolian. The Aetolian. I guess that's a way of saying, like, he was just a beefy guy. He was just that good. Weaker than he in war, the man he fathered, stronger in assembly. Diomedes, the rugged man, said nothing whatsoever, accepting his commander's reprimand. But Sthenelus, the son of Capaneus, made a retort. "Atreides, why distort things when you know well how to be just? We say we are far better than our fathers were. Not they, but we took Thebes by the 7 gates, leading a smaller force against a heavier wall, but heeding signs the gods had shown, and helped by Zeus. Our fathers? Their own recklessness destroyed our fathers. Rate them less than equal to ourselves." Now rugged Diomedes, with a frown, turned and said, "Old horse, be still. Believe me, I do not take this ill from the Lord Marshal Agamemnon. He must goad the Achaeans to combat, for the glory goes to him of his detachments. Cut the Trojans down and take their powerful city, as the anguish goes to him also of his men are slain. If his men are slain, come, both of us should put our minds on valor. Yeah, that's pretty. Diomedes seems pretty chill. He's like, let him talk his talk. He's gonna feel it when his men die. So he's getting it all out, is what he's saying to the other guy, essentially. Kind of funny. As he said this, he bounded from his car in full armor, and the bronze about his chest rang as he hit the ground, a captain roused. Even a stout heart would have feared him then. As down upon a shore of echoing surf big waves may run under a freshening west wind, looming first on the open sea and riding shoreward to fall on sand and foam and roar, around all promontories crested surges making a briny spume inshore. So now formations of Danaans rose and moved relentlessly toward combat. Every captain called to his own. The troops were mainly silent. You could not have believed so great a host with war cries in its heart was coming on in silent, docile to its officers, and round about upon the soldiers shone the figure armor buckled on for war. The Trojans were not silent, like the flocks that huddled countless in a rich man's pens, waiting to yield white milk and bleating loud continually as they hear their own lambs cry. Just so the war cry of the Trojans rose through all the army, not as a single note, not in a single tongue, but mingled voices of men from many countries. This great army Ares urged on, the other gray-eyed Athena. Terror and rout, and hate, insatiable sister in arm of man-destroying Ares, frail at first, but growing till she rears her head through the heavens as she walks the earth. Once more she sowed ferocity, traversing the ranks of men, redoubling groans and cries. When the long lines met at the point of contact, there was a shock of bull's hide, battering pikes, and weight of men in bronze. Bucklers with bosses ground into one another. A great din rose, in one some air elation and agony of men destroying and destroyed. The earth streamed with blood. We are getting into the actual combat for once. Well, other than the 1v1s, because we've had one actual 1v1, and then I think before that, did anything really happen before that? I guess it was mostly just arguing. Arguing between the men, arguing between the gods. It was the previous 2 chapters. And of course, the very long list of names and where people came from and who they commanded. In spring, snow-water torrents risen and flowing down the mountainsides hurl at a confluence their mighty waters out of the gorges, filled by tributaries, and far away upon the hills a shepherd hears the roar. So when the armies closed, there came a toiling clamor. Antilochus was the first man to down a Trojan soldier, a brave man in the front line. Echepelos Telesides. He hit him on the ridge that bore his crest, and driven in the point went through his forehelm and his forehead bone. The darkness veiled his eyes, and immediately he toppled like a tower. Then by the feet the fallen man was seized by Elpenor, Chalcodontiades, chief of Abantes, who tried to haul him out of range and strip him quickly of his arms. The trial was brief. Seeing him tugging at the corpse, his flank exposed beside the shield as he bent over, Agenor, with his spear shaft shod in bronze, hit him, and he crumpled. As he died, a bitter combat raged over his body between the Trojan and spearmen and the Achaeans, going for one another like wolves whirling upon each other, man to man. Then Aias Telamonius knocked down the son of Antimon, Simoeisius, Simoeisius, in the full bloom of youth, on slopes of Ida descending by the banks of clear Simoeis. Oh, Simoes. How the hell do you say it? Simoes? Simoes. His mother had conceived him while she kept a vigil with her parent over flocks. He gave his name for this. To his dear parents, he never made return for all their care, but had his life cut short when Aias' shaft unmanned him. In the lead as he came on, he took the spear thrust squarely in the chest, beside the nipple on the right side, piercing him. The bronze point issued by the shoulder blade, and in the dust he reeled and fell. A poplar growing in bottomlands, in a great meadow, smooth trunken, high up to its sheath of bows, or bots, will fall before the chariot builder's axe of shining iron timber that he marked for warping into chariot tire rims. And seasoning, it lies beside the river. So vanquished by the god-reared Aias lay Simoeisius and Themides. We're back at this with the damn names again. Wiki! Hail to thee, Wiki. How do you do? Oh, spear. Yeah, like a spear shaft. Like, he shoved the whole thing in him. How do you think this works, you Wiki, you know? You get spear, you stab it into a man, it goes into man. At some point, shaft starts going into man. You live, how about me? Beginning to feel my throat getting dry, but that is okay. And I think we are going to be struggling here again with names, because it's going to be like, this guy stabbed this guy whose name is this, and then it gives us like a short description of who he is, and then it gives us his name again. And I'm like, damn, my tongue, my brain, my everything is getting freaking like stun locked, essentially. Well, it is the Greek, so, you know, yeah. What was I expecting? Let's see. At Aias in his turn, the son of Priam, Antipas, glittering in his cuirass, made a spear cast, but he missed and hit instead Leucus, Odysseus' comrade, in the groin as he bent low to put away the corpse. It dropped out of his grasp, and he fell over it. Odysseus, wrought to fury at this death, with flashing helmet shouldered through the ranks to stand above him, glowering right and left to he kept his lance in play, and made the Trojans facing him recoil. With no waste motion, he cast and hit a bastard son of Priam, Democon. Oh, damn, just... This is just a son I don't think we've heard about, Democon, and he's not even made in wedlock. SMH. What are you doing fighting your father's wars? You're not even, like, technically, like, what standing do you have to gain from this? Who had come down from Abydos, where he kept racing horses. Full of rage over his dead companion, Odysseus speared him in the temple, and the spearhead passed clean through his head from side to side, so darkness veiled his eyes. When he fell down, he thudded, and his armor clanged upon him. The Trojan front gave away, Prince Hector too, while Argives raised a great yell. Dragging dead men out of the press, they made a deep advance. Now looking down from Pergamus, Apollo in indignation cried out to the Trojans, "Forward, Trojans, breakers of horses! Will you bow in fury of battle to the Argives? When hit, they are not made of iron or stone to make the cutting bronze rebound. See, too, Achilles, child of Tethys, is not fighting, but tasting wrath and wrong beside the ships." I forgot that Achilles wasn't fighting right now. He gets aura. Yeah. He gets a little bit of aura. Hey, bro, imagine, like, getting, like, curb stomped so bad by the opposing force that your patron god just comes to berate you. It's like, how do you come back from that? The terrible god cried out thus from his tower, and on the Achaean side, Tritogenia, glorious daughter of Zeus, went through the ranks to lift the hearts of those she saw dismayed. The next on whom fate closed was Diaries. Diaries Amurungades, hit by a jagged stone low on the right leg near the ankle. Paris drew it. Paris Imbracides, a Thracian captain, one who had come from Anos. Anos, really? With the bone itself, the vicious stone crushed both leg tendons utterly, and the tall man tumbled down into the dust, flinging his arms out wide to his companions, panting his life away. But on the run, the man who hit him, Paris, came with a spear to gash at him by the navel. His bowels were spilled, and the darkness veiled his eyes. Damn, that one was kind of dirty. Gets your foot tendon destroyed by a random rock, and then you just get gutted. Tough death. Then Thoas the Aetolian lunged at Paris, hitting him with the spear above the nipple, so the bronze point stuck in his lung, and Thoas, at close quarters, wrenching the heavy spear, pulled it out of his breast, then drew his sword and killed him with a stroke square in the belly. His gear he could not strip, though. Friends of the dead man, top-knocked Thracians, closing around with spears, repulsed him, huge and powerful as he was, a noble figure. Staggering, he gave ground. As for the two, they lay there in the dust, stretched out near one another, captain of Thracians and captain of Epeans, mailed in bronze, while others, many fell in death around them. Thereafter, no man could have scorned that fight, no veteran of battle who might go round untouched amid the action. An observer led by Athena, with his hand in hers, shielded by her from stones and arrows' flight. For that day, throng of Trojans and Achaeans, prone in the dust, were strewn beside each other. Basically, there was bodies this day. Book 5. A hero strives with gods. Now Diomedes' hour for great action came. Athena made him bold and gave him ease to tower amid Argives, to win glory, and on his shield and helm she kindled fire, most like midsummer's purest flaming star in heaven rising, bathed by the ocean stream. So fiery she made his head and shoulders as she impaled him to the center where the greatest number fought. Impelled him. Not impaled. Impelled. A certain Dares, a noble man among the Trojans, rich and a votary of Hephaestus, had two sons well trained in warfare, Phegeus and Idaeus. The Achaean faced as they came forward upon their car, one foot braced to meet them. As the range narrowed, Phegeus aimed and cast his long spear first. The point cleared Diomedes' shoulder on the left and failed to touch him. Then Diomedes, wheeling in his turn, let fly his bronze-shod spear. No miss, but a clean hit midway between the nipples knocked the man backward from his team. Idaeus left the beautiful chariot, leaping down, but dared not stand his ground over his brother, nor could he have himself eluded death unless Hephaestus had performed the rescue, hiding him in darkness. Thus, to spare his father full bereavement, were he lost. Yanking the horse's head, lashing their flanks, Diomedes handed team and chariot over to men of his command, to be conducted back to the ships. Now, when the Trojans saw who Dares' two sons feared, one saved indeed, the other lying dead beside his car, every man's heart misgave him. Grey-eyed Athena took the fierce war god Ares by the hand and said to him, Ares, bane of all mankind, crested with blood, breacher of city walls, why not allow the Trojans and Achaeans to fight alone? Let them contend, why not? For Zeus may hold out to the winner while we keep clear of combat and his rage. She says that as if she didn't just like give one of her guys like a little buff. She's like, "Come on, Ares, don't help out. Like, let them fight. Let them fight." It's like, what do you mean? You just were in there. Even as she spoke, she led him from the battle and sat him down upon the Scamander's side. Now Danaans forced back the Trojan lines, and every captain killed his man. First, the Lord Marshal Agamemnon struck from his car Odius, a tall warrior chief of the Helizones. He had turned, signaling a retreat when Agamemnon's point went through him front to rear, between the shoulders, driving through his chest. Damn. These spear thrusts are kind of strong. And that, driving through his chest, and down he crashed with clang of arms upon him. Idomeneus then killed the son of Boros, Phaestus, who came from good farmland at Tarni. As this man rose upon his car, Idomeneus drove through his right shoulder, tumbling him out of the chariot, and numbing darkness shrouded him. As the Cretans took his gear. Why are they just looting one another? I mean, I guess for like money and stuff, and to some extent, I guess, because a lot of these named guys are probably kind of dripped out in their armor. They probably got some like nice stuff on them, you know, on their armors and whatnot. So they're probably just doing that, just doing a little bit of looting in the middle of like spear to spear, you know, wall on wall combat. Can you imagine that? It's like you got a guy like 2 feet in front of you with a spear, and you're just like, yeah, let me just try to drag this guy over here that's dead on the ground so that I can just steal from him. Times were different, huh? Scamandrius, hunter son of Strophius, fell before Menelaus's point. Scamandrius, expert at hunting, Artemis herself had taught him to bring down all kinds of game bred in the forest on wild hills, but she who fills the air with arrows helped him not at all this time, nor his own good shooting. No, as he ran before the Achaeans' lands, Menelaus caught him with a lunging thrust between the shoulder blades, drove through his ribs, and down he fell, head first, armor clanging. Meanwhile, Meriones killed Phereclus, son of Harmonides, a man who knew all manner of building, art, and handicraft, for Pallas Athena loved him well. This man had even built Alexandrus's those ships, vessels of evil, fatal to the Trojans, and now to him, who had not guessed heaven's will. Running behind and overtaking him, Meriones hit his buttock on the right and pierced his bladder, missing the pelvic bone. He fell, moaning upon his hands and knees, and death shrouded him. Then Meges killed Padius, bastard son of Lord Antenor, a son whom Lady Theano had cherished equally with her own, to please her husband. Meges Philides, the master spearman, closing with him, hit his snape. The point clove through his tongue's root and against his teeth. Yikes, right in the neck, like through the neck into the mouth? Not pleasant. Biting cold bronze, he fell into the dust. Eurypylus, Euaemonides, brought down Hypsenor, son of noble Dalapion, priest of Scamandir in the old time, honored by countryfolk as though he were a god. As this man fled, Eurypylus leapt after him with drawn sword, on the run, struck his shoulder, cutting away one heavy arm. In blood, the arm dropped, and death, surging on his eyes, took him hard destiny. So toiled the Achaeans in that rough charge, but as for Diomedes, you could not tell if he were with Achaeans or Trojans, for he cursed along the plain most like an April torrent fed by snow, a river in flood that sweeps away his banks. No piled up dike will hold him, no rivetment shielded the bloom of orchard land. This river suddenly at crest when heaven pours down the rain of Zeus. Many a yeoman's field of beautiful grains is ravished. Even so, before Diomedes were the coward ranks of Trojans broke, many as they were, and none could hold him. Diomedes is just out here. He is out here racking up that kill streak. Now when Pandaros looked over at him, saw him sweep the field, he bent his bow of horn at Diomedes and shot him as he charged, hitting his cuirass in the right shoulder joint. The winging arrow struck, undeflected, spattering blood on bronze. Pandaros gave a great shout. "Close up, Trojans! Come on, charioteers! The Achaean champion is hit! Hit hard! I swear my arrow shot will bring him down soon, if indeed it was Apollo who sheared me on my way from Lycia." Story time with YOLO? Story time. Might be boring to some, Flip, I will be honest, but to me, I'm enjoying it. Except for when they make me read a list of names and God, I'm never gonna forget having to do that. that was so many names with so many locations and so many. This guy who leads the troop of these people who came from this land. It's like, fuck me, dude. How are you doing, though? How are you doing on this Thanks of Giving? I assume you were cooking a lot. Assuming you celebrate Thanksgiving also, but I don't know if you do or do not. Either way, hope you had a good day so far. Triumphantly he shouted, but his arrow failed to bring Diomedes down. Retiring upon his chariot and team, he stood and said to Sthenelus, the son of Capaneus, "Quick, Sthenelus, old friend, jump down and pull this jabbing arrow from my shoulder." Sthenelus vaulted down and pressed against him, threw the slim arrow shaft clear of his wound, with spurts of blood that stained his knitted shirt. And now at last Diomedes of the war cry prayed aloud. These people suck at writing. You've read smut better than this. Okay, Wiki. Whatever you say, Wiki. I mean, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. But these are very different kinds of stories, okay? Very different kinds of stories. They just have different structure. That's just how it is. Jeez. You know, that gets me to think. You guys think there's definitely been, like, considering this is Greek storytelling, like, some story about some person smashing another. There must have been. Because with how much the gods decide to smash literally anything that walks and breathes and is on two legs, and sometimes not on two legs, depending on whether they're dealing with like a half god or god descendant thing. Of course, plenty. Yeah, like there's gotta be somebody's gotta actually make a comparison between modern smut and then whatever the hell they were cooking up back in the day. I just want to know from like an actual writer's perspective, how good was it, you know? How good was it? What else were they supposed to jack their shit and flick their beans to? I don't know, like, I don't think they really had much time for that, if I'm being honest. Didn't they? Most of them were just stuck farming. I guess it's for the people who can read, and therefore they would have the time to do that. You know? Yeah, I feel like that's how that would have worked out. It was just the people that could read that would spend their time doing this. Either that or, I don't know. You were either some homeless guy who spoke the absolute truth and got famous for it, or you were some guy in some temple doing math. I don't know. I feel like that's how the people that could read spent their time most of the time. If you were a lady, I don't know, I guess you were just like making a tapestry, you know? Oh my goodness. Water. It feels so good. Oh, hear me, daughters of Zeus, who bears the storm cloud, tireless one Athena. If ever you stood near my father and helped him in a hot fight, befriend me now as well. Let me destroy that man. Bring me in range of him who hit me by surprise and glories in it. He swears I shall be blind on sunlight soon. So ran his prayer, and Pallas Athena's heard him. Nimbleness in the legs, sure feet and hands she gave him. Standing near him, saying swiftly, "Courage, Diomedes, press to fight against the Trojans. Fury like your father's I've put onto your heart." His never quailed. Titus, master shieldman, master of horses, I've cleared away the mist that blurs your eyes a moment ago, so you may see before you clearly, and distinguish God from man. If any god should put you to the test upon this field, be sure you are not the man to dare immortals gods in combat, none, that is, except the goddess Aphrodite. If ever she should join the fight, then wound her with your keen bronze. Okay. At this, great-eyed Athena left him, and once more he made his way into the line. If he had burned before to fight with Trojans, now indeed bloodlust 3 times as furious took hold of him. Think of a lion that some shepherd wounds, but lightly as he leaps into a fold, the man who roused his might cannot repel him, but dives into his shelter, while his flocks, abandoned, are all driven wild. In heaps huddled they are to lie, torn carcasses before the escaping lion at one bound surmounts the palisade. So lion-like Diomedes plunged on Trojans. Man must have been terrifying. The Greeks and Romans ran a plant into extinction because it was a contraceptive. That's how freaky they were. I mean, listen, can you blame them? I surely wouldn't, especially if you know, honestly, what? I feel like anybody would back in the day. I don't think it was even like the Greeks and the Romans. Give that like plant to any peoples and they would have done the same thing. They would have driven that plant to extinction. I wonder what it would have been like to have nommed on that plant a little bit. Country girls make do. Exactly. First, he killed Astinus and the captain, Hyperion. Hypeiron. One with a spear thrust in the upper chest, and the other by the stroke of his great sword, chopping his collarbone at the round joint to sever his whole shoulder from his body. These he left and met Palladius and Abas, Eurydamas' sons, the father being an old interpreter of dreams. He read no dreams for these two going to war. Diomedes killed and stripped them. Next he met Xanthus and Thune, 2 dear sons of Phaenops, a man worn out with misery and years, who fathered no more heirs, but these Diomedes overpowered. He took their lives, leaving their father empty pain and mourning, never to welcome them alive at home after the war, and all their heritage broken up among others. Next, 2 sons of Dardan, Priam Diomedes killed. In one war, Echemon and Chromius, just as a lion leaps to crunch the neck of ox or heifer, grazing near a thicket, Diomedes, leaping, dragged them down, convulsed out of their car, and took their armor, sending their horses to the rear. Aeneas, observing all the havoc this man made amid the Trojan ranks, moved up the line of battle and along the clash of spears in the search of Pandaros. Coming upon him, he halted by Lycaon's noble son, and said to him, "Pandaros, where is your bow? Where are your fledged arrows? And your fame? No man of Troy contends with you in archery. No man in Lycia would claim to beat you. Here, lift your hands to Zeus. Let fly at that one, whoever he is, an overwhelming fighter. He has already hurt the Trojans badly, cutting down many of our best. Let fly, unless it be some god who bears a grudge against us, raging over a sacrifice. The anger of a god is cruel anger." Man is telling him, bro, start shooting already. Unless a god is what you're afraid of. In that case, do not shoot. To this, Lycaon's noble son replied, Aeneas, master of battlecraft for Trojans under arms, that spearman, as I see him, looks very like Diomedes. Shield and helm, with his high-plumed socket I recognize, having his team in view. I cannot swear he is no god. If it be Diomedes, never could he have made this crazy charge without some god behind him. No, some god is near him, wrapped in cloud, and bent aside that arrow that reached him. For I shot him once before, I hit him too, and squarely on the right shoulder through his cuirass joint over the armpit. Down to the ditch of death I thought I had dispatched him. Not at all. My arrow could not bring him down. Some angry goddess in this. Teams and chariots I lack, or I could ride. In father's manor there are 11 war cars newly built and outfitted, with housings on them all, and every chariot has a team nearby that stands there champing barley meal. God knows how many things Lycaons had to tell me in the great hall before I left. He said that I should drive a team, a chariot, and so command the Trojan men-at-arms in combat. How much better if I had, but I refused, sparing the teams, I thought, from short rations of father under siege. And so I left them, made my way on foot to Iliad, relying on my bow, a bow destined to fail me. In this battle I had shots at two great fighters, one Diomedes and the other Menelaus. I drew blood from both, but only roused them. Destiny was against me on the day I took my bow out of horn down from its peg and led my men to your sweet town of Troy for Hector's sake. If ever I return, if ever I lay eyes on land and wife in my great hall, may someone cut my head off unless I break this bow between my hands and throw it into a blazing fire. It goes everywhere with me, unless useless. Man is mad. He really said this fucking bow is bad luck. Aeneas said, better not to talk so. Till we act, he wins. We too can drive my car against this man and take him on with sword and spear. Mount my chariot and you'll see how fast these horses of the line of Tross can run. They know our plain and how to wheel upon it this way and that way in pursuit or flight like wind veering. These will save us, take us Troyward if again Zeus should confer the upper hand and glory on Diomedes. Come take the whip and reins, and let mount to fight him from the car, or you yourself may face the man, and let me mind the horses. Lycaon's noble son replied, Aeneas, manage the reins yourself and guide the team. They'll draw the rounded war car with more ease knowing the driver. If we must give ground to Diomedes this time, God forbid they panic, missing your voice, and balk at pulling out when Diomedes makes his leap upon us. God forbid he kill the two of us and make a prize of these. No, you yourself handle your car and team. I'll take him on with my good spear and when he attacks. So both agreed and rode the painted car toward Diomedes. Sthenelus, the son of Capaneus, caught sight of them and turned at once to Diomedes, saying, Friend of my heart and soul, I see two spearmen who... a little gay, but okay. Friend of my heart and soul, I see two spearmen who have your blood, a pair of big men, bearing down on you. One Pandarus the bowman, by repute his father was Lycaon, and the other, Aeneas, claims Anchises as his father. His mother is Aphrodite. Up with you. We'll move back somewhat in our chariot. Now is no moment for another charge, or you may lose your life. But Diomedes glanced at him scowling. No more talk, he said, of turning tail. You cannot make me see it. For me, there is no style in a dodging fight or making oneself small. I am fresh as ever. Retire in the car? I dread it. No, I'll meet them head-on as before. Athena will never let me tremble. These two men are not to get away behind their horses after we hit them, even if one survives to try it. Let me tell you this thing, too. Remember it. If in her craft Athena confers on me the honor of killing both, you halt our horses and hard upon the spot, taking a full hitch around the chariot trail, and jump Aeneas's horses. Mind you, drive them among the Achaeans. out of the Trojans' range. They are they are that breed that Zeus, who views the wide world, gave to trust in fee of Ganymedes, under the dawn and under Helios's, the finest horses in the world. Anchises, marshal of Troy, stole their great stock without Laomedon's knowledge, putting fillies to breed with them, and from these 6 foals were bred for Anchises at his manor, 4 to be reared in his own stalls, but 2 he gave Aeneas as a battle team. If we can take the team, we win a great honor. And this was the way these 2 conferred. Meanwhile, the other pair behind their team, Pole Tilt, had come in range, and Pandaros called out, "O son of Tydeus, undaunted heart and mind of war, my arrow could not bring you down a wasted shot. This time I'll try a spear. God, let me hit you." Just let me hit you, bro. Rifling it, he let the long spear fly and struck him on the shield. His point in flight broke through the reach of the cuirass, and Pandaros gave a great shout. Now you're hit square in the midriff. Can you keep your feet? Not long, I think. This time the glory's mine. Unshaken by the blow, Diomedes answered, "A miss, no hit. I doubt you 2 will quit, though, being what you are, till one of you is down and glutting leather-covered Ares, god of battle, with your blood." At this he made his cast, his weapon being guided by Athena to cleave Pandarus's nose beside the eye and shatter his white teeth. His tongue the brazen spear served. Tip from root, then plowing on came out beneath his shin. He toppled from the cart, and all his armor clanged on him, shimmering. The horses quivered and shied away, but life and spirit ebbed from the broken man, and he lay still. Damn. Another one right in the mouth, huh? They really like their headshots or neck shots that just kind of go through the mouth in one way, shape, or form, either from behind or the front. Like, they really like that. It's either straight in the chest, like between the shoulders, or right in the mouth. With shield and spear, Aeneas, now on foot, in dread to see the Achaeans drag the dead man, came and bestrode him like a lion at bay, keeping the spear and rounded shield before him, thrusting to kill whomever came in range. He raised a terrible cry, but Diomedes bent for a stone and picked it up, a shoulder no 2 men now alive could lift, though he could heft it easily. This mass he hurled and struck Aeneas on the hip, just where the hip bone shifts in what they call the bone cup, crushing this joint with 2 adjacent tendons under the skin, ripped off by the rough stone. Now the great Trojan, fallen on his knees, put all his weight on one strong hand and leaned against the earth. Night veiled his eyes. Damn, that is disrespectful as hell. Man comes to try and like keep his buddy's body safe, and then he just gets a big stone to the freaking hip. Like, what the hell kind of thing is that? Just stone to the hip. Big one too. That may as well be a boulder. God damn, what a way to go out. Not with a spear or arrow or a lead ball going to your head. Nah, just a guy picking up a rock and throwing it at you. Unga bunga style. Athena really really gave this man a good buff. What the hell? Aeneas would have perished there but for the quickness of the daughter of Zeus, his mother Aphrodite, she who bore him to shepherding Anchises, and who now pillowed him softly in her 2 white arms and held a corner of her glimmering robe to screen him, so that no Danaan spear should stab and finish him. Then from the battle heavenward she lifted her dear son. Okay, so he got saved by mom. Meanwhile, Sthenelus, the son of Capaneus, remembered the command of Diomedes. He brought his horses to a halt, made fast his taut reins to the chariot rail, and flung himself upon Aeneas, a long-maned, beautiful team. Away out of the Trojans' reach, he drove them and gave them into Diapilus' hands. Diapolis's hands? Diapilus, I think. D. D's hands. For he esteemed this friend more than his peers for presence of mind to lead them to the ships. Remounting, shaking out his polished reins, he turned his sure-footed horses and drove hard in Diomedes' track, as Diomedes drove ahead to attack the Cyprian goddess. He knew her to be weak, not one of those divine mistresses of the wars of men, Athena, for example, or Enio, raider of cities. I don't know Enio, I've never heard of her. Therefore, he dared assail her through a great ruck of battle. When in range, he leaped high after her, and with his point wounded her trailing hand. The brazen lance head slashed her heavenly robe, worked by the graces, and cut the tender skin upon her palm. Now from the goddess the immortal fluid, ichor, flowed, the blood of blissful gods, who eat no food, who drink no tawny wine, and thereby being bloodless, have the name of being immortal. Aphrodite screamed and flung her child away, but Lord Apollo caught him in his arms and bore him off in the dark cloud, so no Danaan spear should stab and finish him. Damn, not only this guy is getting saved left and right. What the fuck? It's just first it's his mom, and then it's Apollo coming to pick him up. It's like they will not let this one die. Now Diomedes, lord of the battle cry, with mighty lungs cried out to her, "Oh, give up war and killing, goddess. Is it not enough to break soft women down with coaxing lust? Go hunting, battle, will you? I can see you shudder after this at the name of war." So taunted, faint with pain, she quit the field, being by wind running, Iris helped away in anguish, sobbing while her lovely skin ran darkness. Then came on Ares, resting far to the left, his spear shaft leaning on the bank of mist. There stood his battle team, and falling on one knee, she begged her brother for those bangled horses. "Brother dear, please let me take your team. Do let me have them, to go up to the gods' home on Olympus. I am too dreadfully hurt. An immortal speared me. Diomedes it was. He'd even fight with Zeus." Then Ares gave her his gold bangled team, and into the car she stepped, throbbing with pain, while Iris at her side gathered the reins and flicked the horses into eager flight. Then came almost at once to steep Olympus, where the gods dwell. Iris, who runs on wind, halted and unyoiked the team and tossed them heavenly father. In Dione's lap, Aphrodite sank down, and her dear mother held and caressed her, whispering in her ear, "Who did this to you, dear child? In heaven, who could have been so rude and wild, as though you had committed open wrong?" And Aphrodite, lover of smiling eyes, answered, "Diomedes had the insolence to wound me when I tried to save my dear son from the war. Aeneas, dearest of all the sons of men to me. It seems this horrid combat is no longer Trojans against Achaeans. Now the Argives are making war upon the gods themselves." Then said Dione, loveliest of the goddesses, "There, child, patience, even in such distress. Many of us who live upon Olympus have taken hurt from men and hurt each other. Ares bore it, when Otos and Ephialtes, Olaus' son, giant sons, put him in chains. He laid for 13 moons in a brazen jar, until that glutton of war might well have perished, had Eriboia, their stepmother, not told Hermes. Hermes broke him free, more dead than alive, worn out by iron chain. Then think how Hera suffered too, when Amphitrion's mighty son let fly his triple-barbed arrow into her bright breast. Unappeased pain came over her. And Hades, great lord of the undergloom, bore a shot from the same strong son of Zeus at Pylos, amid the dead. That stroke delivering him to anguish. Then Hades, pierced and stricken, went to high Olympus, the arrow grinding still in his great shoulder, and there Paeon, with a poultice, healed him who was not born for death. What recklessness in Heracles, champion though he was at labors, to shrug a impious axe and bend his bow for the discomfiture of Olympians. But this man, he that wound you, Athena put him up to it, idiot, not to know his days are numbered who would fight the gods. His children will not sing around his knees, Papa, Papa, on his return from war. So let Diomedes pause, for all his prowess. Let him remember he may meet his match. And Agialia addressed his daughter, starting up from sleep from night in tears, may awaken all the house, missing her husband, noblest of Achaeans, Diomedes. That's a long way of saying, others have been hurt. He's gonna get what he deserves eventually, though, because he's dumb for trying to, hurt a god, which I agree. That's a pretty stupid thing to do, even if another god tells you to do it. Which, funny enough, I think sometimes you could maybe make your what's the word? Your plea that another god put you up to hurting that god, and sometimes the god might let it slide a little bit. Because it's like, well, it depends on how mad they are. Or I guess also depends on if they kind of owe or like you or like somebody related to you. And they're like for example, if you're the son of like some guy and just, let's say Zeus likes your father, right? And you hurt a god, you might come out of it okay. You might come out of it okay. Or at least the punishment might be lessened. It's still never a good idea, even if a god tells you to do it. But you really have no choice, so you're kind of screwed if you do or if you don't. Ah, jeez. I must use the restroom. I shall return. A swift return I have made. Fair warning though, whenever this chapter ends, I'll likely stop the stream there and leave off, a little early than usual. I'm pretty sure we're kind of close to the ending of this chapter, quote unquote chapters, technically books, because they came in different books, but you know what I mean. The pisser, that is I piss. I make piss, and then I piss. That's how pissing works. Very astute of you, Wiki, very astute. Oh, Father, will you be annoyed if I make a small comment? Aphrodite likes to beguile the woman of Achaea to elope with Trojans, whom she so adores. Now, fondling some Achaean girl, I fear, she scratches her slim hand with a golden pin. He smiled at this, the father of gods and men, and said to the pale gold goddess Aphrodite, "Warfare is not for you, child. Lend yourself to sights of longing and the marriage bed. Let Ares and Athena deal with war." These were the colloquies in heaven. Meanwhile, Diomedes, lord of the war cry, charged Aeneas. Though he knew well Apollo had sustained him, he feared not even the great god himself, but meant to kill Aeneas and take his armor. 3 times he made his killing thrust. 3 times the Lord Apollo buffeted his shield, throwing him back. Beside himself again, he sprang a 4th time, but the archer god raised a blood-curdling cry. "Look out! Give way! Enough of this craze to vie with gods. Our kind immortals of the open sky will never be like yours, earth-faring men." Diomedes backed away a step or two before Apollo's terrible anger, and the god caught up Aeneas and set him down on Troy's high citadel of Pergamus, where his own shrine was built. There in the noble room, Leto and Artemis tended the man and honored him. Meanwhile, Apollo made a figure of illusion, Aeneas' double, armed as he was armed, and round this phantom, Trojans and Achaeans cut one another's chest, protecting oxhide shields with hanging shield flaps. Then Apollo said to the war god, a bane of all mankind, crusted with blood, breachers of walls, why not go in and take this man out of the combat, this Diomedes, who would try a cast with Zeus himself? First he attempts Cypris and cut her lovely hand, then like a fury came at me. Apollo turned away to rest in Pergamos, upon the height while baleful Ares through the ranks of Trojans made his way to stiffen them. He seemed Acamas, a good runner, chief of Thracians, appealing to the sons of Priam. "Princess, heirs of Priam in the line of Zeus, how long will the Achaeans have your leave to kill your people? Up to the city gates, lying in dust out there, is one of us whom we admire as we do Lord Hector, Aeneas, noble Anchius' son. Come, we can save him from the trampling root." He made them burn at this, and then Sarpedon in his turn glowered at Hector. "What of you, Hector? Where has your courage gone? Defend the city, will you? Without troops, without allies, you and your next of kin, brothers-in-law and brothers? In the combat I neither see nor hear of them, like dogs making themselves scarce around a lion. We do the fighting, we who are allies here as I am, and a long journey I made of it from Lycia and Xanthos, Xanthos' eddying river far away, where I left wife and child, with property a needy man would dream of. Here all the same I am, sending my Lycians forward, and going in to fight myself, though I have no least stake in Troy, no booty for Achaeans to carry off, while you stand like a sheep. You have not even called on the rest to hold their ground, to fight for their own wives. Will you be netted, caught like helpless game where your enemies can feast on? They will be pillaging your city soon. Here is your duty, night and day. Press every captain for your foreign troops to keep his place in battle and fight off the blame and bitterness of your defeat." This lashing made Hector hot with shame, and down he vaulted from his chariot, hefting 2 spears to pace up through the army, flank and center, calling on all to fight, to join the battle. The Trojans rallied and now stood off the Achaeans, while the Achaeans kept formation too. Seeing in the mind's eye, wind-blowing shaft on ancient threshing floors, when men with fans toss up the trodden sheaves, and yellowed-haired Demeter, puff by puff, divides the shaft and grain. How all day long in bleaching sun straw piles grow white, so white grew those Achaean figures in the dust cloud, churned to the brazen sky by horses' hooves as chariots intermingled, as the drivers turned and turned, carrying their hands high and forward gallantly despite fatigue. Now coming to the Trojans' aid in battle, Ares veiled them everywhere in dusk, obeying Apollo of the golden sword by arousing Trojan courage. He had seen Pallas Athena, defender of Danaans, depart from the other side. Apollo then, out of his sanctum, hushed and hung with gold, sent back the marshal of Trojan troops, Aeneas, with fighting spirit restored. He stood again amid his peers. To their relief, they saw him whole without a scratch and hot for war, but no one there could pause to question him. Apollo brought new toil upon them now, with Ares bane of men and strife insatiable. Amid the Achaeans, these 2 men named Aias joined Diomedes and Odysseus, made bastion for Danaans. See these 4, all fearless of attack or Trojan power, patient in battle, motionless as clouds that Zeus may station on high mountain tops in a calm heaven, while the north wind sleeps, and so do all the wind whose gusty blowing rifts and dispels shade-bearing cloud. So these Danaans held their ground against the Trojans and never stirred, while Agamemnon pressed amid the ranks, haranguing troops. "Dear friends, be men! Choose valor and pride in one another when shock of combat comes. More men of pride are saved than lost, and men who run of it get no reward of praise, no safety either." Lightning quick, he lunges with his own spear and hit Aeneas' friend, Deicon, Pergus' son, spear fighter, a man the Trojans honored as they did their princes, knowing him prompt to join the battle line. His shield, hit hard by Agamemnon's thrust, could not withstand the spearhead, but the point drove through his belt low down and crumpled him, with clang of arms upon him. Aeneas now, for his part, killed 2 champions of the Danaans, Orsilochus and Crethon, sons of Diocles, who owned the states in fear, being descendant from that river that runs broad through the Pylian land. Alpheus fathered Lord Orsilochus, powerful over many men, and he in his turn fathered gallant Diocles, whose sons were twins, Orsilochus and Crethon, skillful at every kind of fight. Still fresh in manhood, they embarked in the black ships for the wild horse country of Iliad to gain vengeance for the Atreidae. Agamemnon and Menelaus. Here death hid them both. Imagine 2 young lions, reared by a mother lioness in undergrowth of a deep mountain forest, twins who prey on herds and flocks, despoiling farms, till one day they too are torn to pieces, both at once by sharp spears in the hands of men. So these went down before the weapons of Aeneas, falling like loft pines before an axe. Pitying the 2 men fallen, Menelaus came up, formidable in the glittering bronze, with menacing spear. For Ares urged him on, so to see him conquer at Aeneas' hand. But Nestor's watchful son, Antilochus, advised to join him, anxious for his captain. Fearing his loss and failure of their cause, the two champions, with weapons tilted up, had faced each other when Antilochus moved in, shoulder to shoulder with Menelaus, and agile fighter though he was, Aeneas shunned the combat, measuring this pair. On his retreat, they pulled away the dead, unlucky twins and passed them to the rear, then turned battle to them. First, they killed the captain of Paphlagonians, Pylaemenes, burly as Ares. Menelaus it was who hit him with a spear thrust, piercing him through just at the collarbone. Antilochus knocked out his driver, Atimnius, noble son called Mydon. As the man wheeled his horses, a boulder smashed his elbow. In the dust of his reins, inset with ivory, curled out as with drawn sword, Antilochus leapt on him and gashed his forehead. Gasping, down he went, head first, pitching from his ornate car into a sandbank, so his luck would have it that to stay embedded till his trampling horses rolled him further into the dust. In the dust, Antilochus lashed at them and consigned them to the rear. Surveying these Achaeans through the ranks, Hector charged with a sudden cry. Beside him, strong Trojan formations moved ahead, impelled by Ares and by cold Enyo, who brings the shameless butchery of war. Ares, wielding a gigantic spear by turns, led Hector on or backed him up, and as he watched in this figure, Diomedes felt like a traveler halted on a plain, helpless to cross before a stream in flood that roars and spumes down the sea. That traveler would look once and recoil. So Diomedes backed away and said to his company, "Friends, all we can do is marvel at Prince Hector. What a spearman he is, and what a fighter. One of the gods goes with him everywhere to shield him from a mortal wound. Look, there beside him, Ares in the skies. Give ground slowly. Keep your faces towards the Trojans. No good pitting ourselves against the gods." The Trojans reached them as he spoke, and Hector swept in to death a pair of men who knew the joy of war, Menestheus and Anchialus, both in a single car. Now these two fallen were pitied by a great Aias Telamonius, who moved in closer, his glittering spear at play, and overcame Salagus' son, Amphion, a landowner in Paesos. Destiny had sent this man to take a stand with Priam, and Priam's sons in war. Now Aias' thrust went through his belly, and in his lower belly the spear point crunched and stuck. He fell hard on the dust. Then Aias came up fast to strip him, while the Trojans cast their spears in a bright hail. And his shield took one shock after another. With one heel braced on the corpse, he pulled away his point. But being beset by spears, he could not slip a sword belt or buckler from the dead man's shoulders. And now, too, he began to be afraid of Trojans coming up around the body, brave men and many, pressing him with spears. Big as he was and powerful and bold, they pushed him back, and he retired, shaken. This way the toil of battle took its course in the quarter. Elsewhere, all-powerful fate moved Heracles' great son, Tlepolemus, to meet Sarpedon. As they neared each other, son and grandson of the cloud-massing Zeus, Tlepolemus began to jeer. "Lycian war counselor Sarpedon, why so coy upon this field? You call yourself a fighter? They lie who say you come of Zeus's line. You are so far inferior to those fathered by Zeus among the men of old. Think what the power of Heracles was like, my lion-hearted father. For Laomedon's chariot horses, once he beached at Troy with only 6 shiploads of men, a handful, yet he sacked Iliad and left her ways desolate. But your nerve is gone. Your troops are losing badly. It is no gain for Trojans that you came here from Lycia, powerful man that you are, and when you fall to me, down through the gates of death you go. Sarpedon answered, right enough, Tlepolemus. He did ruin Ilion. Laomedon, the greedy fool, gave him a vicious answer after great labor he well performed, refused to make delivery of the promised horses that Heracles had come for. As for you, I promise a hard lot, a bloody death you'll find here on this battleground. When my spear knocks you out, you'll give up glory to me and life to him who drives the horses of Undergloom, Hades. Then Tlepolemus raised his ashen spear, and from his hands, in unison, long shafts took flight. Sarpedon's hit his enemy squarely in the neck with force enough to drive the point clear through. Unending night of death clouded his eyes. Tlepolemus' point, hitting the upper leg, went jolting through between the 2 long bones. Yikes. But once again, Sarpedon's father saved him. Out of the melee, men of his command carried the captain in his agony, encumbered by the long dragging spear. No one had time to think of how the shaft might be withdrawn, and that he might use one leg at least, so hastily that they did their work, so pressed by care of battle. Meanwhile, Tlepolemus was carried back by the Achaeans on the other side. Rugged Odysseus noted it with anger and pain for him. What should he do, he thought? Track down Sarpedon, son of thundering Zeus, or take the life of Lycians in throngs? It was not given to Odysseus to finish off Sarpedon, but Athena turned his fury upon the Lycians. He killed a lot of guys, apparently. Koirenos, Alistair, Coromius, Alcandors, Halios, Noemon, Prytanis, and would have killed more Lycians had not great Hector pierced his eye, and had not great Hector's piercing eye under his shimmering helmet lighted on them. Across the clashing line he came, a glitter with burning bronze, a terror to Danaans, making Sarpedon's heart lift up to see him. So that as Hector passed, he weakly said, I beg you not to leave me lying here for Danaans to despoil. Defend me. Afterwards, let me bleed away my life within your city. Not for me to see my home country once again, my dear wife, in her joy, my little son. Bro, you got stabbed in the leg. I mean, I guess that's still pretty bad. Kind of forget. I keep forgetting like what era this is. I'm like, you know, like you got one through the leg. It went through the bones, you know. And then I'm like, actually, that's pretty bad. It's pretty rough to be having a spear through your whole leg. Silent under his polished helmet, Hector, dazzling and impetuous, passed on to drive the Argives back with general slaughter, and those around Sarpedon laid their commander in the royal shade of Zeus's oak. One dear to him, Pelagon, wearing the spearhead, pulled it from his thigh, at which he fainted, but his breath came back with a cool north wind. A reprieve blew around and fanned him, weakened him from his black swoon. Even though not yet routed to the ships under attack from Ares and from Hector, the Argives could not gain but yield everywhere. Knowing that Ares fought among the Trojans, one by one, who were the fighting men that Hector slew, and Ares, Teuthras first, Orestes, breaker of horses, a spear thrower, Trecos, and an Aetolian, Oenomaus, Helenus, Oinopades, Oresbios, whose plated breastband glittered in the past he lived at Hyle on Lake Cephissus, fond of his wealth amid his countrymen, Boeotians of the fertile plain. Now Hera, seeing these Argives perish in the fight, appealed with indignation to Athena. The damsel seeing this, O untiring goddess, daughter of mighty Zeus, who bears the storm cloud, our word to Menelaus was a fraud, that he should never sail for home before he plundered Ilion. How likely, if we allow this lunatic attack by the sinister fool Ares? Come, we'll put our minds on our own fighting power. I like how Athena's is going along with whatever Hera's telling her to do. I guess she has she has like reason to be on the side, right, on the side of the people attacking Troy. But it's just a little funny to me that like most of the time when she does something, it's because Hera is telling her to do something. Gray-eyed Athena listened and agreed, and Hera, eldest daughter of old Kronos, harnessed her team, all golden fringes. Hebe fitted upon her chariot, left and right, the brazen wheels with 8 shin bones or spokes around the iron axe tree. All gold her fellows are unworn, for warped upon them are tires of bronze, a marvel, and the hubs are silver, turning smoothly on each side. The car itself is made of gold and silver woven together, with a double rail, and from the car a silver chariot pole leans forward. He fitted to the tip a handsome golden yoke, and added the collars all soft gold. And Hera, in her hunger for strife of battle and the cries of war, backed her sure-footed horses in the traces. As for Athena, she cast off and dropped her great broad brocaded robe, her handiwork in lapping folds across her father's doorsill, taking his shirt, the shirt of Zeus, cloud messer, with breast armor, and gear of grievous war. She hung the storm cloud shield with the revealed tassels ominous from her shoulder. All around upon it in a gerald root was figured enmity, force, and chase that chills the blood, concentrated on the Gorgon's head, reptilian seething fear, a portent of the Storm King. Quadrupled crested golden double rigid her helmet was, encased with men at arms put by 100 cities in the field. She stepped abroad the glowing car of Hera, and took the great shaft of her spear in hand, the heavy spear this child of power can use to break in wrath long battle lines of fighters. Then, at the crack of Hera's whip over the horses' backs, the gates of heaven swung wide of themselves on rumbling hinge gates. The hours keep. It's a lot of random words that are capitalized. I imagine they mean important things. For they have charge of entry to wide heaven and Olympus, by opening or closing massive cloud, passing through these and goading on their team. The goddesses encountered Kronos' son, who sat apart from all the gods on the summit of Olympus. Reigning in, Hera, with arms as white as ivory, addresses the All-Highest. Father Zeus, are you not thoroughly sick of Ares? All those brutal acts of his? How great, how brave the body of Achaeans he destroys so wantonly. He has made me grieve, while Cypris and Apollo take their pleasure egging on the dunce who knows no decency. Father, you can you, be annoyed if I chastise and chase him from the field? Then Zeus, who gathered cloud, replied, Go after him. Athena, hope of soldiers, is the one to match with him. She has a wondrous way of bringing him to grief. Ambrosia's like, yeah, I like... just go get your brother. Freaking mess with him. What an asshole, father. At this permission, Hera cracked her whip again. Her team went racing between starry heaven and earth, as much dim distance as a man perceives from a high lookout over wine-dark sea. These horses, neighing in the upper air, can take at a bound. Upon the Trojan plain, where the two rivers run, Scamander flowing to confluence with Simois, Hera halted to let her horses graze. Around them both she rained an emanation of dense cloud, while for their pasturing Simuis made ambrosial grass flow soft. I'm getting to that point where reading words is like the words are starting to mumble up in my brain. The goddesses gliding in a straight line like quivering doves approached the battle to defend the Argives. But once arrived where their best spearmen fought at the flank of Diomedes, giving ground like lions or boars, like carnivores at bay, no feeble victims, Hera took her stand with a loud cry. She had the look of Stentor, whose brazen lungs could give a battle shout as loud as 50 soldiers trumpeting, "Shame, shame, Argives, cowards, good on parade!" While Prince Achilles roamed the field, the Trojans never would show their faces in a sortie, respecting his great spear too much, but now they fight far from the city, near the ships. This shout put an anger in them. Meanwhile, the grey-eyed goddess Athena from the air hastened to Diomedes. But by his car she found him resting, trying to cool the wound Pandaros' arrow gave him. Spent and drenched with sweat, beneath his broad shield strap, he felt encumbered by his shield, being arm-weary, and slipped the strap off. Wiped his blood away, the goddess put her hand upon the yoke that joined his battle team and said, "Ah yes, a far cry from his father, Titus' son. Titus was a smaller man, but a fighter. Once I forbade him war or feasts of arms that time he went as messengers to Thebes alone, detached from the Achaean host, amid Cadmeans in their multitude. Bidden to dine at ease in their great hall, combative as he always was, he challenged the young Cadmeans, and he had no trouble pinning them all. I took his part so well. But you, now, here I stand with you, by heaven protected you, care for you, tell you to fight, but you are either sluggish in the legs from the battle weariness or hollow-hearted somehow with fear. You are not, after all, the son of Tydeus Onides. Fucking hell. She's like, you are not like your daddy. Proud Diomedes answered her, "I know you, goddess, daughter of Zeus who bears Stormcloud. With all respect, I can explain and will. No fear is in me, and no weariness. I simply bear in mind your own commands. You did expressly say I should not face the blissful gods in fight. This is unless Aphrodite came in. One might feel free to wound her anyway. So you commanded, and therefore I am giving ground myself, and ordering all Argive to retire shoulder to shoulder here, because I know the master of battle over there is Ares." The grey-eyed goddess answered, "Diomedes, dear to my heart, no matter what I said, you are excused from it. You must not shrink from Ares or from any other god while I am with you. Whip your team toward Ares, hit him, hand to hand. Defer no longer to this maniacal god, by nature evil, two-faced everywhere. Not 1 hour ago I heard him grunt his word to Hera and myself to fight on the Argive side. Now he forgets all that and joins the Trojans." Even as she spoke, she elbowed Sthenelaus' side and threw him. Why? But gave him a quick hand up from the ground, while she herself, impetuous for war, mounted with Diomedes. Just like tossed him off the cart and just picks it, like helps him up, but like you could have just asked, you know? Could have asked for him to get off the cart. No, just fucking pushes him off. At her step, the oaken axle groaned. Having to bear goddess and hero, formidable Athena caught up the whip and reins and drove the horses hard and straight at Ares. Brute that he was, just at the point he had begun despoiling a giant of a man, the Aetolians' best, Periphas, brilliant scion of Ochesius. The blood-stained god had downed him, but Athena, making herself invisible to Ares, put on the helm of Lord of Undergloom. Then Ares saw Diomedes, whirled, and left Periphas lying where he fell. Straight onward, for Diomedes lunged the ruffian god. When they arrived in range of one another, Ares, breasting his adversary's horses, rifled his spear over the yoke and rein with murderous aim. Athena, a grey-eyed goddess with one hand, caught and deflected it and sent it bounding harmlessly from the cart. Now Diomedes put his weight behind his own bronze-headed spear. Pallas Athena rammed it at Ares, belted away so hard she put a gash in his fair flesh, and pulled the spearhead out again. Then brazen Ares howled to heaven, terrible to hear us roaring from 10,000 men in battle when long battalions clash. A pang of fear ran through the hearts of Trojans and Achaeans, defeated by insatiable Ares' roar. Like a black vapor from a thunderhead riding aloft on storm wind brewed by heart, so brazen Ares looked to Diomedes as he rose heavenward amid the clouds, high on Olympus, crag of the immortals. He came to rest by the Lord Zeus. Aching, mortified, he showed his bleeding wound and querulously addressed him. Father Zeus, how do you take this insubordination? What frightful things we bear from one another doing good turns to men, and I must say we all hold it against you. You conceived a daughter with no prudence, a destroyer given to violence. We other gods obey you, as submissive as you please, while she goes unreproved. Never a word, a gesture of correction comes from you, only begetter of the insolent child. She is the one who urged Diomedes on to mad attempts on the immortals. First, he closed with Cypris, cut her palm, and now he hurls himself against me like a fury. It was my speed that got me off, or I should still be there in pain among the dead, the foul dead, or undone by further strokes of cutting bronze. But Zeus, who masses the clouds, regarded him with frowning brows and said, "Do not come whining here, you two-faced brute, most hateful to me of all the Olympians. Combat and brawling are your element. This beastly, incorrigible truculence comes from your mother, Hera, whom I keep but barely in my power, say what I will. You came to grief, I think, at her command. Still, I will not have you suffer longer. I fathered you, after all. Your mother bore you as a son to me. If you had been conceived by any other and born so insolent, then long ago your place would have been far below the gods." With this he told Paeon to attend him, and sprinkling anodyne upon his wound, Paeon undertook the treatment and heal him who was not born for death. As wild fig sap when dripped in liquid milk, what the hell is this sentence? As wild fig sap when dripped in the liquid milk will curdle it as quickly as you stir it in, so quickly Paeon healed impetuous Ares' wound. Then he bathed him, mantled him afresh, and down he sat beside Lord Zeus, glowing again in splendor. And soon again to Zeus's home retired Argive Hera, Boeotian Athena, who made the bane of mankind quit the slaughter. All this just to get this man to stop fighting. Oh heavens, we will stop here at book 6. I guess we're doing this three books at a time, kinda, sorta. I guess technically we went 3, 4, 5, yeah, like 3 books at a time, I suppose. If I am counting correctly. What a mess of things these gods, these gods are just goofing about, really. They just complain to one another, get involved, are surprised when other gods get involved. Didn't know you can read. It is rougher than it appears to be to do so, trust me. At some point the brain just starts getting really sluggish. At least for me. My mind can only do so much reading before it just starts melting, but it can do it. Either way, like I said before, am going to be on my way, for I am tired. I shall bid thee farewell. I hope you all have a great rest of your mornings, afternoons, evenings, and nights, wherever and whenever you are. May the gods bless you. May the stars shine in your honor. And tomorrow, let's see what we have for tomorrow. I have to check my schedule again. We play Peak, actually. So, hey. We'll see if any one of you wants to join, I suppose. Bye bye!